Building an international engineering project based on an employer's design requires the coordination of thousands of moving parts, millions of dollars, and daily physical tasks. To govern these massive undertakings, the international construction industry relies on a specific legal framework, the FIDIC 1999 Conditions of Contract for Construction, commonly known as the Red Book. The text of the Red Book contains 20 primary clauses and over 80 distinct definitions. Because these clauses reference one another continuously, reading the document strictly from page 1 to the final page offers very little insight into how the project actually operates in the field. To master this framework, you have to stop reading it as a static legal document. You have to analyze it as a mechanical algorithm. This diagram illustrates the core of that algorithm. The contract is driven by 3 distinct concurrent operational loops: principal events, payment events, and dispute events. These 3 tracks process the daily chaos of a multi-year construction site and organize it into strict, predictable sequences. Tracking these interlocking timelines is the singular mechanism by which project managers can accurately allocate and manage multi-million-dollar risk. Before the algorithm can process any data, it requires the establishment of specific operating nodes. This diagram maps the core actors to initiate the system. We start with the employer, the ultimate owner. Opposite them is the contractor, holding the obligation to execute the works. Sitting between them is the crucial third actor, the engineer. Technically, the engineer is categorized as the employer's personnel, appointed directly by the owner. Practically, they serve as the administrative processor for the entire contract system. All site communications, complex technical instructions, and financial certifications flow through the engineer. The employer and contractor do not govern the site by issuing direct demands to one another. This strict tripartite architecture buffers the financial and physical processes of the contract against direct adversarial interference. With the actors in place, we can activate the first timeline, Track 1, the principal events, which dictates the chronological execution of the physical works. This flowchart tracks the physical milestones. The entire sequence anchors to the base date, established exactly 28 days prior to the latest date for tender submission. The base date locks in the contractor's assumptions. It is the definitive reference point for the physical conditions and legislative realities that existed when the bid was priced. Moving forward, the employer issues the letter of acceptance. As defined in subclause 1.1.1.3, this specific document acts as the formal trigger that forms the binding contract. The actual physical execution starts at the commencement date, governed by clause 8.1. This is when the project clock officially begins ticking. From that exact date, the contractor is bound by the time for completion. At the end of that duration, they must execute the tests on completion to prove the works meet specifications. On the day the taking over certificate is issued, primary care of the works transfers to the employer, but this triggers the defects notification period, compelling the contractor to remedy faults until the issuance of the performance certificate. Track 1 operates as a rigid chronology, constructed to dictate exactly which party owns the physical risk of the site at any given second. Physical execution requires capital. To sustain Track 1, the algorithm runs a synchronized financial engine alongside it, Track 2, the payment events. This cyclical flowchart illustrates how Clause 14 governs project cash flow. Rather than a single linear progression, interim payments operate in an endless, repeating monthly loop. Step 1. The contractor submits a statement outlining the exact value of work executed that month. Step 2. The engineer evaluates the progress and has 28 days to issue an interim payment certificate, legally certifying the amount owed. Step 3. Under Clause 14.7, the employer is obligated to execute the payment to the contractor within 56 days of the initial statement submission. To protect the employer's capital, the algorithm applies a structural guardrail known as retention money. The engineer automatically deducts a defined percentage from every interim payment certificate. This withheld capital ensures the contractor remains financially motivated to stay on schedule and fix errors during the defects notification period. The contract remains in this monthly loop until Track 1 reaches the performance certificate. Once issued, Track 2 breaks out into a terminal payment sequence. The contractor submits a final statement alongside a formal discharge under Clause 14.12. This discharge caps the employer's total financial liability for the project. The engineer verifies this final package and issues the final payment certificate, permanently closing the financial track. Track 2 ensures that cash flow is not a subjective negotiation. It is an automatic, certifiable pipeline governed entirely by the engineer's valuation of physical progress. When executing millions of dollars of work over multiple years, disagreements over time and money are a mathematical certainty. The FIDIC framework isolates these disagreements into Track 3, the dispute events, ensuring that arguments do not stall physical construction or freeze interim payments. This sequence is built around the Dispute Adjudication Board. When a dispute cannot be resolved, either party can formally refer it to this board. Once referred, the rules are rigid. The DAB has 84 days to investigate and issue a binding decision. Upon receiving it, either party can object, but they only have a 28-day window to issue a formal notice of dissatisfaction. If a notice is filed, the algorithm forces a 56-day cooling-off period, designated for amicable settlement, before anyone is legally permitted to initiate arbitration. The penalties for missing these deadlines are absolute. If a party fails to issue their notice within that initial 28 days, the DAB's decision becomes legally final and unchallengeable. Track 3 functions as a highly aggressive timer. It denies both parties the ability to stall through administrative friction, forcing rapid resolution to keep the core project alive. These 3 tracks run simultaneously, constantly passing data back and forth. A physical delay in Track 1 automatically triggers withholding adjustments in Track 2's payment cycle. That financial adjustment can then spark an objection, immediately launching the 84-day timer in Track 3. The exact architecture of these 3 tracks makes up the general conditions of the contract, and they remain functionally identical whether you are building a bridge in Sweden or a power plant in Argentina. The project-specific variables, the exact days required for completion, the percentage of retention money, the specific local currency, are isolated and injected into this algorithm through the appendix to tender and the particular conditions. By abandoning the idea of a static legal document and mastering the Red Book as an interlocking temporal architecture, professionals can confidently engineer legal risk on a global scale.